Willkommen, bienvenue. Welcome once again to the Sally Inkster Find BrandU show, is what we're calling it. And, of course, the inimitable, incandescent Sally Inkster of Find BrandU. Now, each week, she teaches me a little bit more about personal branding. Now, you might think, Gareth, you know about personal branding, wearing the sodding hat. Well, there's more to it than just wearing a hat, apparently. And today we're talking about something called uh, RAW. How to use your RAW to find your ROAR. Sally Inkster, what am I wittering on about?
Exactly. And it's going to be a very difficult one for us because neither of us can spell very well. But all the
No,
way through, we're going to have to be spelling those two words.
right, fair enough.
Okay. When we're trying to define our personal brand, we often know that we have to put some stories over. And people tell us we have to be vulnerable and put all our sort of things that have gone wrong in our life, etc. And we don't want to do that because it number one makes us feel vulnerable, and we don't like that.
Right.
So what we need to do is change how we see those things that went wrong. So it's a little bit of reframing, but also it is finding the story in the things that go wrong. So quite often we have a raw, so an RAW is like a wound. It's something that hurt us. So imagine falling over in the playground, or you've got a sore on your arm. It's raw.
Okay? What my mother used to refer to as an ouchie.
An ouchie, yes. But sometimes these ouchies can be horrendous. I mean, not just a little ouchie, but a massive, great one. And they can come from something that went wrong in our childhood. It could have gone wrong with our children. We could have had a loss somewhere along the line, or we could have been very sad. Those are our RAWs.
Sudden traumatic events that don't seem to go away and you constantly think about them.
Yes, those. Okay. And usually those RAWs are to do with a loss because there are fears, and our fears have been made true. And it's a loss of people, or a loss of health, or a loss of status, or a loss. Everything we get fearful about is usually around a loss. And so if you think to yourself, okay, well, I've got this story about loss, and I've got that story, and that story hurt, what can we do with it? So we have to examine what it was, what happened to us, and because of what happened, where did we go to next? So how did we cope with it? And then what did we learn from it? And when you look at your RAWs as a learning curve and a solution, we did find a solution because we came through it. We're still here. It is, it's past. So what did we do? Then we can start to talk about our ROAR, which is like a lion and a roar. It's powerful, it's strong, it's confident. It knows what it's learned and what it has done.
Oh, I see. You've done what I refer to as a homonym there. So you've got, all right. So what you're saying is, to be the strong, confident, punchy, standing proud, etc., shoulders back against the storm, as it were, you need to be able to get past the ouchie.
You need to get past the ouchie, but the ouchie might have happened a long, long time ago, and you want to use that story. And so you have to come up with what you learnt and how you overcame it, because you would have overcome it. So let's say your raw was you bullied at school. Okay. And you're not still being bullied at school because obviously you're not at school anymore. So what happened? What happened because of that? Did somebody come to your defense? Did you learn to stand up with them? Did you end up moving schools? And moving schools was the best thing ever that happened to you. So what was the outcome of that raw? And what did you learn that you can use today from that RAW that you can say, I can face anything. I faced this, and it was a loss of self-esteem, it was a loss of friends, it was a loss of confidence, all those things. You then can transfer it to, how did I cope with that then? And how can I cope with it now? And what is the learning effect that I can use that is around my business or around me or what I do now? So you and I both at some stage had a roar because we can't spell. And we can't spell. I couldn't read till I was 8. Yeah, exactly. So that was our roar. And what do we do now? Well, number one, we laugh at it. Number two, we find hacks. I mean, Grammarly is great. All those things are great, but they're only great, or predictive text is only great if you know the first 3 letters, which we often don't know of a word because we can't work out.
Worse still, you need to realise that some words seem to fit, but they actually mean sometimes the diametric opposite of what you're trying to say.
Exactly. And as a child, that was a huge roar to me. It was horrible. I used to try and hide it. I was embarrassed about it. It caused me shame. I was lost. It gave me loss of status. But now I just use it as a way that I understand things, and I can get complicated things to be quite simple, because I have to do that because I'm dyslexic.
Right.
So that's my roar, is that I can make complicated things come over, and I have to make it simple in my head, and then I can teach it simply.
All right. So you've got sort of an inbuilt summarizing facility.
Yeah, because summarizing and making sense of something is it's a roar. It's an art.
Well, I think the very process of summarizing often means that by doing it, you have to understand what the hell you're talking about to be able to make it simple for other people to understand too, which is what you're doing, funny enough. Yeah. All right. My biggest roar, by the way, was I can't write. I find it very difficult to make letters and words. I can the first couple of words, and then it just turns as if a spider walks through a pot of ink.
Okay. Should have been a doctor then.
Absolutely. I'll write you a prescription right now. But yes. But the point is that, I mean, I still can't, but I make a joke of it, or I say thank God for computers, or whatever that might be. But you're quite right. You turn it around to your advantage, or you find a way of getting past it. You find a coping strategy, and I suppose that enables you. You can't really roar unless you found a way of not constantly beating yourself up over something that you see as a personal lag, and it's that process of being able to work out what it is you do to get past it that you can then possibly apply elsewhere. Is that the point you're making? I'm trying to make sense of it all.
Yes, absolutely. Because if as a child you had a RAW, an RAW, that you overcame, you would have used coping mechanisms. You would have used a strategy. Something happened that you had to use. Now, you can look at that and go, okay, well, let me look at that RAW and let me see, am I still doing it? Is it still the same RAW? Does it still affect me the same? Or have I got over it? If so, what was it that allowed me to do that? And have I learned? What have I learned through that? Because our RAWs don't happen because we want them to. They happen incidentally or despite us, because they're usually quite bad things. A RAW for anybody, whether it's just a cut knee or a gaping wound, it is not nice. And we do have to have some time for that to be processed and get through. But we always do come through it.
But if I follow the analogy through, paper cut is slightly irritating and painful, and especially if you then plunge your hand into seawater. But yucky. If you have one, you can usually just get past it momentarily. You already thinking about something else. If, however, you've got the gaping wound, that could take years to sort out.
Exactly.
So some RAWs you either get, I mean, for instance, I get around my RAW by by avoiding it entirely, or by getting other people to do it for me, or using AI or computers to do it for me. Whereas other
Well, if
people
you start off on
never get
those,
past it.
no, and sometimes those raws, it takes a lot of defining how you're going to make it your ROAR, but it can do. But let's just start off on the little paper cut that you said. So if you have a
Right.
little paper cut, ow, it hurts. What do you learn? You learn that you don't put it in salt water because that makes it worse. You don't put it
Yes.
in vinegar. That makes it worse.
God, no.
Exactly. You don't pick up a load of papers, you know where you got it from, and you think, I'm not doing that again because that really hurt.
Right.
And so you've learned things from it, and you can do that
All right.
very
All
quickly.
right. All right. So you may not have overcome that particular ouchie, but
Yeah.
what you've done instead is you've tried to learn a lesson from the process, so you don't make the same blindingly silly mistake again.
Exactly. Yeah. Or,
All right.
there could be a slip of a knife. Okay, well, I'm not going to cut my loaf of bread like that because that's stupid, because I haven't
Yes.
a hand anyway.
Yeah.
So we learn things from those, and we can use those stories. We've all done stupid things. We've done stupid things in business. We've done stupid things, little things, those little raws, and they can be quite good stories to use on your personal brand. And where it becomes harder is when we've got a big wound and we want to use that in our stories without making people feel sorry for us, without us reliving that trauma, but we want to use it to show what we learnt over the years.
So it is okay to be self-deprecatory by pointing to something you lack or whatever, but use it almost like a point to show that you've moved past it.
Yeah. And I mean, that's still with you. As you say, you still can't write letters. I still get letters and words mixed up and around the wrong way. But that's just part of who I am. There's, from my point of view now, there's nothing wrong with it. It's, led me down some funny stories.
It just is, right? It just is.
Yeah, just is. And also, if we can get to the stage where that big wound we had as a child or a teenager just becomes one of those, it is what it is and it happened, but because of that, I learned this and I learned that. And if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have been here and I wouldn't have done that. Then we can actually make the story, when we put it out to use it as a learning tool or a teaching tool for other people, it's
Right.
not going to hurt us and make us feel vulnerable. It's just we're using that RAW to be our ROAR. Is that right? Yeah. I can't spell out loud, not alone anywhere else. That's it. Well done. Ooh, clever.
I'm ahead of everybody. Yeah. Okay, so I didn't know this was going to be a therapy session. I should be lying down, really. So look, tell me about your childhood. No. No. Do you fancy your mother and want to kill your father? No. Yes. What you're saying is we're finding benefit in talking about the coping strategy you use to get past whatever it was. You think happened.
Yeah.
And then perhaps someone's using it as a teachable moment, or maybe even as a way for people to get to an insight into my character. Is that
exactly? Because that's part of who you are. So when you write a post that you say, "Thank God I've got the computer and that I can draw this and I can put lovely,"
yeah.
Actually write them, that's telling people what you do and why you do what you do, why you sit on a computer all day and don't write lots of copy, or write a book longhand, because that's not what you do and that's not who you are. So other people out there will go, oh God, he's going to get me because I'm dyslexic too, or I can't write and I have to overcome
right.
it.
Okay. So what you're really saying is that by almost showing your soft, slightly puckered underbelly, you're not being weak. What in fact you're saying is, look, I'm just as human as you are, and I've got these issues that I deal with, but I don't see them as something to hold me back, and nor should you. I see what you're doing. It's very clever, Madam Inkster.
Oh,
Okay, so well, I hadn't thought it that way before. I mean, maybe I do it unconsciously, but I never really thought about it.
And it's like it's a great task for people to go, okay, let me just go through some years of my life and what were some of the roars, big ones, small ones, medium ones, and out of that, what story happened to me and how can I put the learning or the technique into either now how I run my business or how I do this, or to make that connection with other people out there who may have that same roar going on at the moment, or they don't know how to deal with it, or they connect with you because they go, oh, I really want to work with somebody who understands where I'm coming from.
Yeah, it feels like they're part of the same tribe, doesn't it? I do talk a lot about that when I'm talking about business branding, and when I talk about LinkedIn, I often mention the fact that people are more likely to understand the information you put out there if they feel you're part of the same tribe. And I suppose this does indicate exactly that. It's actually quite a powerful technique. Look at that.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
No, I like it very much. All right, Sally, would you summarize your raw analogy?
So I have to spell again, or you can write it up for me. So in life, we all have a raw, R-A-W. And when we have a raw, it leaves a wound, it can leave a scar, but we do heal. And then we can look back and go, okay, that raw got me here. Because of that, this happened. Because of that, I did this. Because of that, that didn't happen. And when you understand your learning curve or what positives you got out of it, you can go, oh my God, that is now my raw, my R-O-A-R. And I can tell everybody about it because it's not an R-A-W anymore. It's an R-O-A-R. Thank you very much for putting your spelling up there because that's really helped.
No, not at all. But what I was going to say is, you are running a free masterclass, which I've put a link to at the bottom. So if I was to trot along to your masterclass, what would I get? What would I get out of it?
You would learn things not to do with your personal brand. You would learn why you need a personal brand and why everybody needs a personal brand, not just, that solo business owner. It is everybody needs a personal brand, and you need to define it because you need to understand yourself. And then in business, why do you need it? And if you haven't done it, what the signs are you haven't done it and what you can do about it.
Do you know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like you're going to get your own personal mentoring session. You're going to mentor yourself by looking at where you are now and realizing that by putting your stamp out there and creating your personal brand, you make it easier for people to relate to who you are. It's a powerful thing. Guys, if you're seeing this, can you see around the bottom? It says Inkster Masterclass. Do come along. When's the next one, Sally?
Well, you can pop on it at any time. And what happens is at the end of it, you can then book to have a free coaching call with me.
Oh, right. Okay. So
that's even better, isn't it?
So you get something. You're getting something for nothing, guys. And on top of that, you get the opportunity. And the coaching call is absolutely free. The first one, isn't it? And there we go. So that sounds like a top draw opportunity there. If you want to find out a bit more about personal branding and why you should think about creating your own personal brand, come along to the free personal branding masterclass at the bottom. You can see it there, tinyurl.com/Inkster Masterclass. And on the back of that, you can even book a proper half an hour free session with Sally herself. Sally, thank you very much as ever. I'm always learning stuff from and today was no different. I will go around roaring to my heart's content, and so should you, and so should. Until next week, everyone try and keep your feet on the ground, reach for the stars, wear some sunscreen, and just look after that mental health. Bye-bye now.
All right, you take